Hello, I am William Jamorite,
And I'm Hattie.
and this is our podcast, HattieJo. What are we doing? So, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm a little sore today, but
A little sore
otherwise
today?
good. Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, feeling upbeat. And so, a little surprise here. I told you that we were going to be talking about.
I knew this was coming. I knew it.
So, I told you that we would be talking about our trip to the Saguaro National Park. And
Which is why I'm a little sore.
yes, which is why, and we had a great time. But honestly, I wanted this podcast to be just about me giving you your flowers and telling you how great you are and how much I appreciate everything that you do around the house. Like, I probably don't say it as much as I should, but it is definitely appreciated, everything that you do, and kind of like being who you are. And I was listening, it was a couple of weeks ago, I was listening to a podcast with Dan Batard and Domonique Foxworth, and they were just kind of talking about like their significant others and like how like they don't share their appreciation for like everything that their significant other does for them and like how wonderful they are. And I was like, you know what, like I don't do that enough.
This is so sweet.
I know.
I could tell that we weren't going to talk. Like, he always has a podcast topic ready, right? And so I'm like, what are we going to do our podcast on? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, you don't know. Normally you have a whole list of ideas. And I'm like, well, okay. And so then later I'm like, what are we going to talk about? He's like, well, we could talk about, he like throws out these ideas. And I'm like, yeah, we definitely could talk about those. But like,
Yeah.
I could just tell by the way that you're saying them that that's like, your
Yeah,
heart
I
wasn't
wasn't-
in it. Like, I don't know. I could just, I'm like, something's going on.
Well, I hate
Honestly,
to be
I just thought you didn't want to do the podcast this month. is what
well,
I
I
thought was
definitely
going
like
on,
it's
but-
definitely the end of the month, and definitely like, I mean, I definitely had this idea like coming forward, like this is something like I would like to do on the podcast, but I didn't want to like tell you
Yeah.
that like I was gonna be doing this on the podcast because that's kind of like really
Maybe-
giving the flowers.
Yeah.
So,
Aw,
Yeah.
thank you, baby. You're so sweet.
I try to be. And so I will start off by just kind of going through like some of the things that like I know like you are, first of all, like you do a great job of keeping everything organized with our family. Like you're always sharing with me like stuff that needs to be done, or like, hey, like you're very organized, and that like helps our family operate. You are a great communicator. I think you come in every day and you're like, hey, like how was your day? And like normally I would never like talk about my day and like how it went, and I'm typically very like limited in like the details.
Yeah, you're pretty reserved.
But like I do appreciate that like you care enough to come in and like ask like how are things going with the kids at school, or like how is work going, and I do notice it, and I try to like reciprocate and like listen, but like you are always the one that like initiates that
Oh,
conversation.
yeah, you do a great job listening, and I probably don't ever even give you a chance to like ask me how I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, guess what happened today? Like, you're like, did I have a choice? I guess not. But you're a good sport
Yeah.
about it.
So you do a great job of just kind of always checking in and seeing how I'm doing. You've really, over the last couple of years, I would say, like, especially with like your enthusiasm towards cooking. I know that like when you were like single and like living by yourself, I'm pretty sure cooking wasn't like something you were doing on a regular basis, but like you have definitely like kind of just thrown all in with cooking, and like the things that you're cooking are delicious, and like I appreciate
Thank
that
you. Thank
you
you.
take the initiative, and like we share that responsibility of cooking, but like I appreciate how much like you put into it, and you can tell that it's important to you, and you like just like everything that like you want to do a good job with it.
Well, that means a lot because I really do hate cooking. I don't know what it is. I don't know, but like I know that it's something you really care about, and it really means a lot to me that we do share that responsibility. Like it is the days that I don't have to cook, I'm like, yes, you know what I mean? Like it is just so good, and I really appreciate that. You know, like the distribution of labor in every household is different, and everybody has their own like setup that works for them. But I really appreciate that one of the things that I really don't like doing, you actively do a lot of, and so that makes like my quality of life like really high. And you know, you just went on about my cooking, but your cooking is 10 times better. Like not only do you do it, but it's also delicious, right? I think that's why I don't like cooking, is I'm just such low, like my needs are met by such low effort that I'm like, God, all this extra effort, but like I need to reframe it in my mind, because like nutrition is important, you know, all this stuff. Anyway, that's a topic for a different day, but I really appreciate that something that I genuinely do not like to do, you do a lot of, and that like I notice it and it makes my days better. So thank you.
And I like also I would say that like you keep our like house very like tidy and clean, and like you're all on the weekends, like you're vacuuming and making sure everything is nice and tidy, and that is appreciated. Because like if we were having company over like every other day, I definitely would like make sure that it's more tidy, and I would never want, like we don't live in a mess, and like I would never want people to think that like I live in a mess. But like if it's just me, like cleaning is not like on the highest of priorities.
Yeah, but I also feel like if you were to be in a situation where like, and I wouldn't say I do like deep cleans that often.
No, yeah, and I don't mean like a deep clean, but like I would definitely say like you like.
But I mean, even things like cleaning the bathroom, right? Like I might do it more frequently than you would intrinsically do it, but I think everybody, even if it's not at the forefront of their mind, appreciates having a clean space.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so I appreciate that you said that. Thank you.
And I would say that like kind of like you're always on top of like if I'm planning a trip or something, making sure that like, hey, like is it like set, and like even like this upcoming trip to like Canada, like you're making sure everything is set there, like you know, will I have all of my documents and everything that I need to go to Canada, and like some of it I'm just like, do I really like need to like do it? But like you're like, hey, like what's 5 extra, like what's putting this in your bag and like taking 5 extra minutes to do this, like is that really gonna hurt you? And that logic, like it does make sense. Like it's not something that could hurt me. It's something that like taking a little extra like 30 seconds to do this is not really gonna be like anything
that imposing.
Yeah, that imposing on like my time, or like, but if something were to happen, it would make my trip a lot easier. And so it's little things like that while in the moment I may be like a little more reluctant to be like, okay, I guess I'll like that's like I do see the wisdom behind like when you make suggestions about like my travel, or like, hey, like,
well, I do also recognize that I'm like extraordinarily risk averse, whereas I feel like the normal person is a little less less risk averse, so more willing to take risks. And I feel like you might be even more willing to take risks than like the average person. I think men in general are more willing to take risks than women, but I think that's very societally like ingrained in people. And I think that there's a spectrum for everybody, right?
Yeah, there definitely
but like
is.
And maybe you're about average, maybe a little more than the average person, but like I feel like I'm definitely
on the
to one side of the spectrum, as opposed to you're like near the middle ish. And so I do recognize that in a lot of cases, it's like the probability of what I'm trying to like prevent like that actually happening is so minuscule, and like I do recognize that it seems a little bit absurd, But I appreciate hearing you say, you know, it's really 30 seconds, it's 5 minutes out of my time. Like, it's not really
I can
putting
see
me
the
out.
wisdom.
Like, I can definitely understand reluctance to do something if it's like going to be this huge effort for something that's very, 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 very unlikely to take place. So anyway, I appreciate you saying that.
I would say like also like you're very hardworking. You're oftentimes like working on the weekend. You come home and like there may be work that you need to do, and like it doesn't go unnoticed. I know that you like put in a lot of effort to like make sure that we like don't want or need for anything, and that like we're able to do the things that we want. And I see you like working towards that, and it is appreciated.
Thanks, baby. I appreciate you saying you appreciate me. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I really do. I mean,
yeah, and that's like that's the point of this. Like I am more reserved, and like I don't necessarily like give you your flowers every day, but I do want to like let you know that like I see your efforts, I see how hard you work, I see like the detail that you like have for our life, and like it doesn't go unnoticed, and like as we continue to go forward, like I don't want you to think that I take it for granted. Like I trust that like you're always there for me. Like I trust that like I trust you like unequivocally. Like I trust you, and like there isn't a situation where I don't think that you have my best interest at heart. And so
good. That is definitely where I'm coming from.
And so I appreciate all that you do, like the hard work, like the details in which you do like our life, and it is appreciated.
Aww. Well, you're very welcome, baby. So I like thank you so much. This is so thoughtful. And I want to know a little bit more. You know, I heard you say you were listening to some podcasts that kind of were doing a similar thing. Did they mention any motivation on their end, or kind of what's bringing you up
no,
this?
so they were just in general talking about like love and like kind of like basically they were talking about Dan Le Batard's life and kind of how he got to the point where, because he had been single like all the way through like his 40s, and then he met his now wife, and they kind of like he had kind of closed off the option of like love and like a traditional sense of like getting married, and like but like he met this woman, and like she kind of completely changed his perspective, because like he wanted to do things for her that like he had never done before, like with opening up and like communicating, and like there were doors that were closed that that were now open to him. And so like he is appreciative of his wife for that. And then kind of Domonique Foxworth, he was kind of talking about like how like he loves his wife, and like she's kind of like always on top of things, and like she's like very nice and like a good person, but like she can go like there can be a crisis, and he'll just be like, you know what, I can just let my wife handle it, and like she's gonna take care of everything, and like she's gonna have the best outcome. Like all I need to do is sit back over here and take care of the kids and make sure like so it was
Right.
it just like
He recognizes the
he just recognizes her value, and like in recognizing that value, he also kind of made the point that like things that like he could see like a hot girl walking by and be like, oh, like she's attractive, but like what I have is so much better than that. Like
so much more valuable to
yeah,
me. Yeah,
so
I think
what I
we
have
listened
is
to, speaking of our hikes in Saguaro National Park, I think that was part of we were listening together to part of that episode.
no, so like so I listened to a lot of his podcasts. but he had like, this was a different one in which he was talking about like,
because he and his wife comment on the podcast when he and his wife were both talking.
Yeah, so his wife comes on his podcast once a week, and they just kind of, it's called Roses and Thorns, and she will like give him like basically, what has Domonique been doing good this week, and like, what are your peaks and valleys? What are your roses and thorns? What are some things that you can like get better at? And like, it's kind of like at the beginning, like they were like very much into like the roses and thorns, but now it's kind of become more of like a conversation about like, hey, what's going on in like their lives, or like what's
preoccupying their minds at the moment. Yeah. Okay.
And so that is kind of what prompted this episode.
Well,
those two having a conversation and making sure that they like not only with between each other, but like they share with the person, the significant other that they have, that like they are important to them, and they notice like the things that they do for them, and it is appreciated.
Yay. Great. I'm glad to hear that. Well, I appreciate you too, baby.
Yeah.
I appreciate lots of things. Like, I guess.
Well, no, we're not gonna do that. You're not gonna tell me what. No, this episode is about you. Like, I want that to be clear. Like, it's about me appreciating you. And
okay. Well, maybe after we turn off the camera, I can share.
We don't need to like. This is about you, Hattie.
Okay.
And
great.
so, everything that you do, and there's probably a million bajillion things that I left out that like you do, like little small things that like make a difference, like bringing the sunscreen yesterday on our hike, or like making sure that we had water, and like, hey, like do we have enough water for like our hike, and like knowing that once you get through halfway, like you need to turn around. And while I never think that I'll be in a situation where like I would be without water on a hike, like you have the detail of knowing like, hey, before we get to this point, we need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like you were listening to another podcast that's kind of on that same thought process, or maybe it was like a TikTok or an Instagram or something, but it was like someone was talking about their anxiety, or maybe it was I was watching it, and maybe it wasn't even you watching it, but she's like going through like, I'm great in a crisis. You want to know why? I've thought about all 2 billion possibilities of what could go wrong.
Yeah, that's
I've come up with a plan for each and every one of them.
Yeah, that's the Domonique Foxworth story. So his wife is Ashley, and she talks about her anxiety from time to time. And it's like, yeah, like I have thought about like every single crisis that could happen, and like I have a plan for what I would do if that crisis happened. And I'm much more of all right. Like react in the moment, like all right, what needs to be done here in the moment, and not like plan for a catastrophe to happen, even though I understand that it's likely to happen.
Well, some things are more likely than others.
Yeah. But yeah, it was definitely Ashley on the Domonique Foxworth show. There's like, his wife. And she's like, yeah, I have thought about all of the different like outcomes and what can happen, and like making sure that like we have like, they went on a trip, and like she prepared for if their bags got lost by putting like additional clothes in the suitcase that they had for their carry-on. But like her sister who was with them, she didn't put like she didn't have luggage. She put it all in the like she checked it all in, and so like they couldn't leave the airport because they got snowed in, or they got stopped for that. And so like they couldn't leave the airport to get to like the ski resort until her sister got like her like checked baggage, because they were all set and they could go a couple of days without having the checked baggage. And so, yep.
Yeah, generally I find that people who do that have had the experience, or someone they know has had the experience of like their stuff getting lost. Because we had a similar thing at Duke cheerleading. Like we used to always put our bags under the plane and just bring our backpacks with our school stuff, until one time somebody's bag got lost, with their uniform and everything, so they couldn't cheer, and we had to change all the layouts and formations because there was a person missing because they didn't have their clothes. And so from then on, it was like the rule, like your uniform goes in your carry-on. Like everything you need on cheer day goes in your carry-on. So.
What happened to her luggage?
That's the crazy thing. I don't know, because it's like the chartered plane. It's not like we're flying with like other stuff,
like,
you know?
No other people are there.
No other people are there. So who knows? I don't know. Anyway, that's a side detail. But this was very kind and thoughtful and really made my day, and I very much appreciate it. So thank you, baby.
You're welcome. I love you, and I appreciate you.
I love you too. And I appreciate you too for reasons I'll not elaborate on this podcast.
Well, Jesus.
That is what we're doing.